Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time and being here. We very much appreciate it. I just wanted to start out this afternoon with very brief reading from the book of Proverbs. My devotion for the last coordinating board meeting was also from the book of Proverbs. I've been reading a lot from the book of Proverbs lately. And I think it's a pretty good thing to do because Solomon was the wisest man who ever lived. He probably has some good stuff to say on human relations. So I just want to read a couple verses here, and in this section, Solomon's talking about the lips. Because what we're going to do is talk today. Just a few things Solomon says. From the fruit of his lips, a man is filled with good things, as surely as the work of his hands rewards him. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who are truthful. And my personal favorite, a fool shows his annoyance at once, but a prudent man overlooks an insult. And when I read that passage, I realize that I've been a fool more than once in my life, just showing my annoyance. The reason I chose these today is not because we're a room full of rage addicts or anything like that. It's just today we do want to honestly discuss with each other what this could mean. That can get emotional, and that's fine. It's legitimate to say, I don't want to change because I love my church. That's legitimate. It's legitimate to say to your brothers and sisters, I just feel an incredible drive of what we could do for the lost here in Good Shepherds. That's legitimate. These are all things that we can say to each other and that we should say today. Both pro, against, all of it. But throughout, let us remember what Solomon says here. We are not a bunch of people who blow up at each other. That's not what the people of God are at all. We're people who are honest with each other and love each other and understand that in this discussion, there's going to be disagreement. That's okay. Brothers and sisters, let us make our God proud today. Let us give serious thought and serious discussion to the opportunity he's put in front of us. Jesus be with us all. Amen. Mr. Keither?
Thank you. This should be, yeah, there we go. Okay, it always takes a second. So, just the format so you understand what today is. I'm going to give a little mini update as to where we're at, and then we're just going to open up for questions and comments and concerns or whatever you have there. Again, we are live streaming this today, so what I would ask you to do, if you do have a question or a comment, please raise your hand. My little helper right here will come around with the microphone so the people online can also hear what the question is, okay? So, just a little bit of an update. We have had now at least one open forum at each of the congregations. Heard a lot of questions, heard a lot of comments. I would say that there was nothing that we heard that was particularly new or different than what had been expressed at the open forum that we had had. I would say generally the reaction has been, for the most part, positive. You know, we've had a couple people that say, you know, I'm not in favor of this, but it's been few and far between. The mic is, okay. Is it there now? Okay, I just got to get closer. Okay. I would say that, yeah, the feedback has been generally positive. The other thing I'd like to go through is just a little bit of the timeline moving forward, okay? Because there has been a couple of adjustments to that. Relative to the straw poll, that's going to open up effectively today through March 1st, okay? So there will be a paper version. There will also be an online version that will be distributed, so everyone's got a chance to have their input, whether it's on paper or whether it's online. Woodlawn is actually having a second open forum next week, so their straw poll will be a little bit longer, so the results aren't going to be available immediately after the first, but as soon as they are, we'll have them available for everybody, and you'll be able to see the results of the straw poll from all 4 of the congregations, okay? What's going to happen then is the M4M team is going to meet on March 11th to go through the results and talk about, a little bit of strategy moving forward from there. And then the vote itself right now, we have planned for March 28th. Okay, so that's moving from what was originally anticipated on March 14th. So we have made an adjustment there to make sure we've got enough time to collect the thoughts, collect the opinions, and see where we want to go from there. The other thing I would like to mention is, one of the questions that we've gotten is, okay, what is the actual motion? What are we going to be voting on? Now, we've got a couple of templates, and my mic just cut out again. There it is. We've got a couple of templates that we've gotten as far as motions for something like this through some of the resources that we have, and also I was just forwarded the motion that the Kenosha churches did as well when they voted for theirs. So that, again, will be available most likely after the M for M team has a chance to meet. So you'll be able to see exactly what that verbiage is that we're going to be voting on there. So that's kind of the update at this point in time. At this point, and again, if you're online watching this, please feel free to make comments or questions there. My other assistant, Michael, over there will be able to give me those as they come in. So I'm opening it up to questions, comments, concerns, thoughts that you have. Don't worry about insulting me. A little story. The first year in my business I'm in right now, I literally had somebody throw an offer at me and say, "Why are you showing me this thing?" Okay? I've heard everything from everyone, so don't be afraid of insulting me or anything like that. We want open and honest conversation. Whatever you want to say, let's hear it. So we have, Aiden, can you go up with the microphone? We've got something from online. Well, it's probably because this mic keeps cutting in and out. Before too. So okay. What's going on. All right. Well, we'll do what we can. Any questions? Okay.
Is this on? It is. All right. First of all, I want to say hi to everybody. I'm Kim Lenhart Schultz. I'm a lifelong member. And I love everybody in this congregation. Minus the one who knows I don't, Christopher Groth, we have an issue, but everybody else I'm really good with. So starting out, I just think that we would all agree that family is the foundation of our society. And I think that we would also agree that families working together make a community. But I think this merger might be putting the cart before the horse. Families are delicate. And in all my years of being here at Good Shepherds, I've never seen it better. I am amazed at how God has blessed us with our two pastors that we have, the wonderful principal and our teachers, and we're going to miss Miss Tranberg. But I've been here all my life, and this is the best I've ever seen it. And one of the things I cannot see is disrupting this wonderful family that we have in an attempt to make something completely different. If our goal, which it is, to gain souls for Jesus, and why couldn't we see it as 4 sister congregations working in unison? We could work together on an evangelism outreach program with our 4 churches, and then I think that would show the West Allis community that we ourselves are working as a community to gain souls for Jesus. The other thing that comes to mind is the intimacy of this place. Families, like I said, are delicate. And when you have an extremely large family, and I'm not talking about the Keithers in mind, but when you have a large family, and I'm talking about aunts, uncles, distant cousins, everybody gets together for a family reunion. Not everybody's going to love everybody. But certainly your group is an intimate group. And within that, you have your dynamics, and you're there to support each other in certain ways. And I look around and I see all these friendships of people that have within this congregation. And I just think it's a wonderful family. And I think for us to move to that position where we would join with other families that we don't know in a large group, I think we lose this intimacy that is our wonderful family structure. I think of the sermon that we had today, and just the way that pastor is there up front, just talking to us, that's a blessing. Like, we've never had that before. And I think we can reach souls by showing that we can work within our little congregations, because it's like a little family. I akin it to coming to grandma's house. I mean, you just feel comfortable. You know you're going to get fed with a nice sweet treat of Jesus' gospel. And this is where we feel home. And we can feel home, you know, or get together with other congregations in a big setting and have fun and get to know them. That's all well and good. But I think for this, the intimate worship and our fellowship and our friends here, I think if you want to bring someone in, I think they'd like to be accepted into a nice, intimate family instead of in a large group where you can easily fall through the cracks. And I can see that that would happen. Somebody would be brought in, but then others drop off, and then maybe there's just no closeness. And that's what we have here. So that's my point, and thank you.
I appreciate the comments. Thank you. Okay, we've got, keep your hands up so Aiden can see who to come to here, so.
Is it on? I'm Kevin Bush, 21-year member, member of the Board of Elders. I've been on other boards over the years. I love the church. I love the people. I have lots of friends and family, and I would echo a lot of what Kim said, other than I have problems with several people instead of just one. But, no. Yeah, actually he is one of them. But having said all that, I'll be brief. Probably one of the biggest concerns that I have is we're dealing with 4 churches and the disposition of the campuses, the properties. Are we building something new? Where would that be? It seems to be, to me, a really, really large undertaking, that part of it. And how long and what form and what that would end up being is, I think, one of my biggest concerns and questions that I have. And I have a feeling a lot of people feel that way, but that was one I wanted to get out there, I guess. So, thank you.
And to go along with what Chris said, I guess my question that we should all work with is how big is too big? And does it become impersonal? Because this does, she's right, it does feel like a family. I'm not against combining necessarily, but I think we have to do it wisely. Is 4 churches more than we want to put together necessarily? But other than that, I mean, I'm open to whatever we do. The other thing that concerns me, I guess, is that we've had a lot of debt for a long time. I would like to see that a lot smaller before we start taking on more debt.
Well, let me, I guess, speak to a couple of things now that we've had a couple of comments. Number one, on the debt situation, Good Shepherds has done a lot over the last couple of years in reducing that. And if you actually look at the amount of our debt versus our assets, we are in a very, very good position. So I understand the concern with debt, but as just an individual congregation, we're doing very well there. And I would say when you're looking at the four churches, we have some debt, Jordan's got some debt, Woodlawn and Divine Peace are debt-free. So from a four congregation perspective, we're in a very good position there. Now let me go through, there are a couple of comments that were made in the box and back regarding the process here, and they kind of echo each other of, are we moving too fast? With COVID, is this something that we should be slowing down to take a look at? That's something that I know we've talked about as a committee, and I guess we're trying to be cognizant of that and trying to make sure that we're making all efforts to reach as many people as possible in whatever form we can so that you're informed about what's going on and can make a decision from there. Kenosha just had their vote a couple of months ago, so it's not unusual for this sort of thing to be going on during this time. So we're doing our best to make sure that we're reaching everyone and everyone's informed as to what's going on. So I think there were a couple more hands that were up. I know, Pat, you had a question too?
Hi. My main concern is we're going to be trying to dispose of 4 churches in a pretty small area. And I just do not see that as a possibility. I don't see properties moving that quickly at all. And to go into debt and to try to sell all 4 of these places and then start up a new one, I just don't think it's a good possibility. Thank you.
And that's actually something that I had contacted the real estate agent who did our opinion of value. I basically asked him the same question. What does the market look like? And right now he basically says, as he reads the tea leaves moving forward, it's going to be a seller's market for a while. So as far as there being a market for the properties, granted, it is special use property. It can always be converted. But, and I think Jordan is actually going to be more, probably if that was sold, it's going to be more redevelopment than use as a church. But as far as the other properties, yeah, I think there will be a market, and I think the commercial community sees that, commercial real estate community sees that. I know we had, Mark, and then I know Pat also had a question too.
Hello, I'm Mark Bergman. My wife and I, Leslie, we raised our kids here. Actually, he started here when Scott was in first grade. He's now been a pastor, 15 years. So since the mid-'80s. And I've been on almost all the boards at one time or another. I guess overall, I support the merger. I think it could be a good vehicle to revitalize the members of all 4 congregations, get them more active. And I could really see this as a very positive thing moving forward. I could see us getting a new location and selling all these things. I can see that happening, although it'd be difficult to do in the plant-wise. A lot of the things that I was going to bring up that I thought should be discussed were already brought up, especially by Kim right out of the start. She did mention that people like seeing a number of Christians like to be in a small church, and a number of other Christians like to be in a large church, and maybe half in the middle don't really care. In Good Shepherd's here, since we only seat 200 in our nave, we have a collection of some of our members who like that small congregation feel, and so I would assume that we'd probably lose most of those if we go to a large church setting. But on the other hand, you'd end up gaining some people too. So, that is as it is. But actually, Good Shepherd's here in the United States, Good Shepherd's is considered an extremely large congregation. Average congregations for Christian churches are like 200 people. So we already are a large congregation. People just don't feel that way because we have this small nave. So, those are all things to take into account. I really think that if the 4 congregations, could attempt to revitalize themselves as they stand. That's a possibility too. But that's extremely difficult. We've been attempting to do that here for the entire time I've been here. At Good Shepherds, I've served on the coordinating board for practically 30 years, and it's not something, that is easy to do. And certainly the combination of 4 churches is, as I said, a vehicle that can really get some things moving if it's done wisely. I guess that's just some thoughts that I had. As I said, I kind of do support getting together, but I also, have some thoughts because it's not an easy choice to make either way. Thank you.
I think that's true. Aiden up here. Yeah, I think that's going to be true. I mean, it's going to be a difficult decision. I guess one of the things I'd like to comment on is the churches working with each other as independent bodies. If you recall, when JEC was doing their work, up a little further, Aiden, right here. As JEC was doing their work, one of the things that we formed was the Joint Ministry Committee to do exactly that. And I will tell you that the Joint Ministry Committee did exactly nothing because it was never formed. So if you're looking at 4 congregations, each on their own little island, working with each other as independent congregations, history tells us that is very, very difficult. So when you're looking at independent bodies doing that, unless we change something in moving forward, which is actually what we're talking about right now, to have the congregations independently work with each other, there's just not a history of it, outside of what we've done with athletics in the 2 schools. And I don't think that does a whole lot to, forward the mission and the vision of the congregations.
I'm still sort of on the fence. I would like to see a place where we're going. When we had this discussion earlier, we were talking about the Catholic Church over on Lincoln Avenue. So we had that expectation of a location. Now, we don't know where we're going, we don't know when we're going, and we don't know with whom we're going. It's like asking us to vote on a blank check. And I don't know if a lot of us older members can do that. And as far as evangelism programs go, I've been a member here for 60-some years, and my husband was baptized here. We've been on the evangelism committee a long time ago with Mark Bergerman and with other people. We've tried a lot of different programs. I'm not saying they're not going to work, because ultimately they're up to God. But don't put a whole lot of credibility in what we're going to do. It's up to what the Lord's going to do, ultimately.
Hi, I'm Al Fabian. I've been here for 87, in a week or so it'll be 88 years. So I've been.
I think that's the record, by the way. No,
I've been on a lot of committees over the years, been the chairman of the congregation, been on the evangelism board. And one of the things I look back at is the fact that at one time we're over 1,000 members, and what were we going to do? We were on boards thinking of starting congregations outside in New Berlin. Of course, that's so long ago now, they've already got them. So, but our thought at that point was, we're big enough, let's help somebody else out. And I can see that being the case now. If, Divine Peace needs help, let's help them out. If Woodlawn needs help, let's help them out. Or if Jordan needs help, let's help them out. But, I know our pop numbers have gone way, way down since those days. But I still think Good Shepherds is a solid, good congregation. We can still help people out when they need it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Blazek, and I would like to just give a shout out to Good Shepherds, because when I came here, I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic. My dad was Lutheran, but my mom was always taking us to church, and my husband said, there is a difference. And so I thought, well, okay, I will go there and see. And I came here, and it was friendly. And people smiled and said hi. And I didn't dare say, oh, I'm a Catholic. And I just kept coming, and I still didn't say anything. And then my daughters went to school here, and Good Shepherd School, you did your job, because my daughter started asking me questions. Why do you celebrate a saint? Didn't Jesus die on the cross? Do you believe those things? And then I kept coming, and I would hear God's word, and there was a lot of it, and that wasn't the case in the Catholic Church. And that word kept growing in my heart, and my daughter said, wouldn't you like to come to communion? Don't you believe these things? And I did, because I kept hearing what? It was God's word, and it was those hymns. I did not hear those hymns in the Catholic Church that I heard, and those hymns had a message that Jesus loves me, and the B-I-B-L-E, and all those hymns that have that message about Jesus and not about, what the world thinks. And so then I made my confirmation here, and I believed it. And then, like Mr. Keither said, we did connect with Woodlawn, Lamb of God. They were, I'm not sure which name they're going by, but I brought in, because I thought about it, and it was Brian Plow was the cross-country coach, and my daughter was a runner. We're all supposed to run a race with perseverance, and we all need to run, I think. And, it's not easy, but he gave my daughter this award, 2011 Certificate of Achievement Lighthouse Award, Brian Plow. And, it's dated 2011, but a lighthouse. Are we being a lighthouse? Are we brightening the corner where we are? And it did make a difference being in running, and yes, it's sports, but it proved that, yeah, we were working together, and guess what? My daughter was the only one that wanted to go out for cross country. Our sport is your punishment. Well, but it just proves a point that there are people that did help her. It did help her life, and it's not just about my family, but it is about other families, and it is about coming together. He was a great coach. He did all the statistics, and he had a love for it. And we all have gifts, and we do need to come together, and we shouldn't stay the same. We need to reach out to others, and I do know that Good Shepherds has been reaching a lot of hurting people. And so I'm all for, going forward and making steps, but I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater either. We made a lot of changes. We have an elevator, I just heard Mr. Henning say our school population is on the increase. We need schools. We have broken families. We have hurting people. And we have to become stronger and make steps to go forward. But we also need to think it through. And what is God want us to do? He does have a plan, and he can accomplish this, but we have to keep, reaching out to others. Thank you.
Michael, do we have anything from online? Okay.
Hello, my name is Christopher Groth, and my attempt at a joke, I think the Kim, the meeting you're trying to have with all my enemies is downstairs, so if you guys want to meet there. But one of the things I definitely enjoy is the family here. And I remember when something I openly tell people about when we bought our house and moved. I actually had one blood family member who helped us move, and there was between 12 and 15 people who all just patched together, probably the most successful move that I could have asked for, getting into our house in record time and in as low stress as possible. And that's something that I'll I always hold very dear. One of the things is there's a lot of conversations I've had with a lot of different people over this, is what makes this type of decision difficult is when the vote comes, I'm assuming there's not going to be, are you for it, are you against it, or do you not have a decision? There's no decision here. It's, you got to be one or the other. And one of the things that I've really, when I tried to work out my thoughts is I got to be all in. Just like, you know, when we heard Barb talk at the end of the the open forum last time, she's all in. You know, I mean, and that enthusiasm and that faith is like, if we're going to do this, there's got to be a lot of that type of optimism and people willing to get their hands dirty, and because there's going to be a lot of work that comes to this. But if we're to a point where this is not something that we feel we should do, you know, one of the things I actually thought of while listening to everyone talk was, you know, do we, if let's say this vote goes to no, are we willing to look at things and say, we have to make some changes at Good Shepherds? Because right now the membership is dropping. You've seen the graphs. We know the numbers. But, you know, is there even an option for us to basically take a good look at things and say, you know what, if we don't merge, it doesn't mean that we're closing. It means that we're willing to have, I mean, walking in here, this is a very well-attended meeting. We don't usually have this type of numbers at our like regular voters meetings. And that was something that, you know, my optimism says maybe this would be something where we do have more people. And I know they're not the most exciting sometimes. But I mean, one of the things is, when you look at it, we really want to have many people engaged. And if this goes through, there's going to be a lot of work that has to be done. But one thing is, a merger, if done for the wrong reasons, most likely will not work. I mean, that's my opinion, and anyone can challenge me on that all they want. But also, if we think that we're going to merge, and this is going to be done for us, and this is going to solve all the problems that we have, I don't think that's a good way to think either. And so I don't know if any of my thoughts helped anyone, but really, I think one of the things too is got to just take some time and pray. And it just sounds, I know it can sound cliche, because people say, put it in God's hands and things like that. And like, my furnace broke, and as much as I want to put it in God's hands, right now I'm putting it in the hands of the guy who's going to fix it, because if I don't call him, it doesn't happen. Okay, I'm not going to, you know, but it's really important to, when we hit things like this, just stop and just stop and pray and say, look, where do you want us to go? And just put it in his hands. But what I would really like to see on a lot of this is, you know, no matter what happens, I think there is some frustration in the congregation that we're not moving forward. And we haven't been able to move forward for how many years, because there's always been this merger talk or this what-if talk. So if we pull the trigger on the merger, then we're all in. But if we don't pull the trigger on the merger, then we got to be all in with whatever Good Shepherds is doing, and we got to hit the ground running, because we have been doing a lot of hurry up and wait, and I think that this is basically the be-all, end-all. If we don't merge, we don't hear that word again. It's all about whatever Good Shepherds is doing, and we put all our resources into this, and we make this the best ministry possible here without always wondering, what about this, and is there a potential new merger talk in 2 years or whatever? That's not it. And that's the way I've been looking at it, saying I'm ready to make a decision, and then I'm ready to get to work regardless of what the decision is. Thank you.
I guess just a couple of comments as far as, you know, some of the comments I've heard, and just going back to the start of M4M and what we did at the beginning, okay? The first thing that the M4M team did was basically say, okay, you know, what are the strengths of the congregations, and what do we want to do moving forward? What's best for ministry in this area, okay? And are we better together? Are we better apart? And that's where the committee really looked at, you know, we think we are better together. Yes, are all the congregations doing individual things that may be good? Absolutely. Word of God is being preached. We have a successful school. We have a successful child care. We have 2 pastors we absolutely love, right? At least I can speak that way. I don't know about everybody else, but hey. Maybe I should ask Chris. Yeah. So you love Pastor Zarling, but you got issues. Okay, all right. But can we be better together? If we take a look at, like Chris said, some of the constraints we have in our ministry right now, if we took a look at the child care, yes, it's very successful, but we're constrained by space. We can only do so much. Through our Gifted for Praise, we tried to get that, separate child care. We weren't able to do it. Our school, yes, being successful, but can it take that next leap? Not with having child care and school together. And we know what's happened with the membership of the congregation over the last 20 years. It's not going in the right direction. Now, please don't misinterpret me by saying the merger is going to fix all this, and we started, 1,400 members, and in 5 years we're going to be up to 2,500, and, we're going to be one of the mega churches in West Dallas. I mean, that would be wonderful if the Spirit moves this area to do that. But I don't think it's the panacea. However, and what the M4M committee has said is we do think we are better together. As far as, some of the thoughts about, okay, where is this church going to be? Yeah, that's a question. It's definitely a question. But, one of the analogies that's always been put forward to me is the analogy of, when you get married, right? Yeah, you make that decision to get married, but do you know what your life is going to be in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Absolutely not. I know my life 5 years after I got married was not what I thought it was going to be, but hey, I think everything's turned up. Yeah, you're not getting a microphone, okay? But I think it's kind of the same thing here, okay? This decision is kind of that marriage decision, and then you put it in the Lord's hands and where He's going to move us. And I think we do have a good plan as to how we can take this ministry of West Dallas and really move it forward. The other thing that's been said too is wipe the slate clean, okay? If we didn't have any churches in West Dallas, how would it look? Would we have 4 churches planted so close to each other doing ministry, tripping over each other, still not being able to work together? Is that what it would look like? And I think we all know the answer to that is no. I mean, if we were looking at a similar sized community with no Wells churches, we would not be putting 4 churches of this size in that area. So that's another reason we're looking at this and going, okay, what is the best approach moving forward to make sure this ministry is growing and vibrant and continuing for the next 100 years? And trust me, I've been a member here for, I think it's 22 years now, something like that. 22, 23, you probably know. 23, there you go. I have a love for here too. My kids go to this school. We've been here a long time. But I am firmly convinced, and I think the committee is too, that the path we are laying out is the best path towards just taking this ministry and taking it to the next level over the next 20, 30, 40 years. So that's just a few comments I have on what's been said there. So any other comments, questions? No?
I too came here as a member, strict Catholic, raised in a foreign country, and Catholic was about all there was in my area until I came to America, and here I am as one of your members. After 10 years coming here, not being a member, but being here every Sunday, one day Pastor Sharp says, it's time to sign up. I looked at him, guys used to play football. He's bigger than me. I better listen. So anyway, in the meantime, 3 of our kids came through here, school, went on to Wisco. I can tell my car, go to Good Shepherds. It comes here. It's a place I've known now for over 30 years. My question is, would one of the other churches would come into here? Our services are not full, any one of them, and Monday nights, has that ever been looked at or questioned or whatever? I think we could accommodate a few more people. I don't know how many that would be or how many each one of those churches would hold, or even if we wouldn't merge with 4, could we accommodate 2 more with the amount of spaces that we have left in each service? And we would be able to stay here. If things would come to a point where, after a while, that this would really work out, we'd be, would have a larger membership, and maybe money would be there to be able to afford to enlarge the school, or ask Pastor Wempner to move the church this way, enlarge it.
Well, he's got wheels now, so he moves
That's
faster
right.
than he used to.
He's on wheels, so he's mobile. Yeah, any one of those things. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
And I think as far as several of the churches combining here, this property is one that we've looked at as a potential, but with the 4 churches combining here, yeah, we would definitely not have room. When you're talking about 640 as your average Sunday attendance, that's, unless we have 4 services, and I don't think we want to do that. I'm talking 4 on a Sunday morning. I mean, you'd have to have more than the 4 I think we have now. Even if you're talking 3 churches, it would be difficult. Say, the smallest one, I believe, is Jordan, and then Divine Peace. I think it would be difficult with even 3. So, I mean, Jordan is the largest of the churches, but it's also the smallest property. Doesn't have a school, no parking. So, I mean, if we could take Jordan the church and put it on one of the other properties, I think, yeah, then you might have a shot at it, but.
Okay, and that marriage reference, I think we need to be dating a little bit longer. So what I mean is that I guess I don't know exactly the evangelical outreach that, I'm not talking that each individual does their own thing. I'm actually asking that all 4 of these churches, since we're working towards a merger, why don't we slow the roll, work together, make a joint committee of these 4 churches, knowing that we want to work together towards an eventual goal, and do an evangelism outreach or do some kind of community outreach prior to this, because what's going to change if we don't work together and do enough on our own, and they don't do enough on our own, and then we're just going to push us together, expecting us to do all that now as one body. I think we should try to practice as 4 individual church bodies and have that kind of thing going on. So,
Yeah, understood. And again, going back to a microphone that works. Going back to what I'd said before, we did form the Joint Ministry Committee 2 years ago to do exactly that. And because each church is still doing their own thing, that Joint Ministry Committee never got off the ground. So we did attempt to do that. And one of the things we're looking at in ministry is efficiency. Right now, you've got pastors trying to minister to their own congregations, really can't specialize in doing anything like evangelism work. Coming together, you will have pastors that can specialize in different areas of ministry to help put forward things like that they can't do right now. Right now, you've got one pastor at Divine Peace that's trying to do everything. You've got one pastor at Jordan that's trying to do everything. And you've got 2 at Woodlawn, 2 at Good Shepherds. And unfortunately, there's just not enough time in the day to be able to do some of those things and specialize. So that's one of the areas that we're really looking at as far as the merger and becoming more efficient in doing those things, where even if we tried to work together separately, it's not working well. The Joint Ministry Committee is what it was called. It was formed. We wanted to get 2 members from each congregation on that, and that's where it died.
Why not open it up to more than just 2 members? Why not get, like, hey, let's get 10 of us, and then 10 of them, and 10 of them, and we get together and make it up. Instead of like a small little committee that figures out stuff, make it a fellowship group that becomes a fellowship group.
And it's an idea. It's an idea. I will just say the history of the congregations working with each other has not borne a lot of fruit at this point in time. Well, and the question is, if we can't work together separately, how are we going to work together together? I guess is kind of the way to put it. Well, food is a powerful motivator. I know that. Pat knows that too, I think. I think one of the areas is because you're combined and you have that single ministry purpose. And again, we're all WELS, so we're all Great Commission is a single ministry purpose. But to have that single ministry focus and that single mission vision and values as to how you're moving forward, I think is going to be able to help a lot of that.
There. I guess that's sort of the sticking point, right, is that we know that that's our main goal, but we don't have meat to it. And I think that makes it hard to make a decision on whether or not this is the right thing to do, to go forward with this idea without knowing like any sort of plans. It just seems to be that it'll happen, you know, and I think that that's what makes it hard for us when we discuss it, to be fully on board, because it's hard to commit to something without, I guess, having an outline or a structure to back up. It is a lot like signing a blank check. I don't recall who made that reference. It's a little bit scary not knowing how things are going to be done. Yes, we may have 5 pastors or 6 pastors, but will the synod let us do that? Is that how it's going to be? I guess I just feel like there's more information that needs to be freed up so we can make a more knowledge-based decision.
So kind of a soup of comments I'm going to kind of throw together in a hopefully coherent manner here. I do agree it's a seller's market with regards to home properties specifically. Living on 110th Street and seeing Sam's Club and Pick and Save and various commercial properties in this area, though, remaining blacked out for many, many years, I do have a concern over 4 church properties theoretically being remodeled, torn down into Pick and Saves and so on and so forth. So I don't foresee the properties selling in a timely manner, and that being definitely a stressor and a concern for us financially. My other concern, though, too, is the analogy of a family that's been used a couple of times, a family without a home. If we sit in a gymnasium somewhere for 4 years as we're building a church, I unfortunately see a lot of attrition happening over that period of time until we ultimately get some sort of master plan and an actual home so we can bring the blended families together in some kind of a, you know, under the same roof type of a thing. I mean, I selfishly, and this is definitely 100% selfish, I don't want to be sitting in a cold gym on a you know, metal folding chair for the next 4 years, waiting, hopefully in eager anticipation for God to provide an awesome home for me. I do see that we have a great facility here. I understand the concerns over independently, you know, all the upkeep on 4 facilities. So that's you know, I know that's a financial burden for us as well. I do love the ideas of synergetically ministers being able to do various things, not have to provide, you know, 3-4 different sermons over the course of a Sunday. I do also see that it's not a all or nothing type proposition. We did the Living Nativity event. It was some folks, you know, myself from the evangelism board, a lot of other evangelism folks. Jess, our secretary, who happens to kind of cross the bridge between the congregations and over there at Woodlawn, brought some Woodlawn folks over there. There's a lot of other things to overcome that I have concerns as a joint family. Things not happening. People making statements like, I won't go and volunteer if it's that event. Yes, it's a joint event, but if it's at Good Shepherd's, but if it's over at Woodlawn, then come on down, then maybe they'd have 80%, acceptance and things like that. So there's a lot of concerns. All that rambling aside that I just made, and hopefully some of it was useful, I really want to see more ideas, what's the vision, what's the home, all that stuff before I can give an honest yes or no to this very, very big undertaking we're about to vote on. So I'd almost like a plan C, like let's really talk about more details and make sure everything makes sense. Because there may be a lot of divide between we all like a joint, site or what have you. And if we do end up having multiple sites, I feel like we're going to feel kind of fragmented as well. So maybe kids start here in grade school through 4th grade and then they hike over to Woodlawn. So even that feeling, thinking about my children as they progress in the, in the facilities, does it feel like they're part of that one family if they're, one kid's over here and the other kid's over there and so forth. So a lot of stuff to consider, I guess.
Oh, well, actually, we got Pat Schultz behind you first.
I've been praying on this one a long time. I came here too. I was raised in the Catholic Church, and I've kind of watched what's St. Anthony of Padua over here on 76 off of Blue Mountain. And I've kind of watched, I'm 58 years old. I've watched what the Catholic Church has done, and they've lost, for other reasons too, but an enormous amount of their congregations when they tried to merge or change names. And I've just gone through this with a job 3 years ago. I was with a company for almost 20 years, right? No one loves change. I mean, you get comfortable. But I will tell you, when I came here, it was life-changing for me. And I understand there is just so much love in this congregation. But one thing I think everybody should remember, right? We are, all the other churches, and they're thinking the same things we are, right? We're all WELS members. We all are trying to figure out the right thing to do. So there's just that ball of uncertainty. And I just wanted to say we will figure it out. You brought up a lot of really interesting points. And I don't know what the answer is right now. I don't even know how I would vote. I just know that God will get us there, but I think there needs to be a little bit more discussion. I know that my daughter is, out of school now, so that a lot of those things don't affect me, but it does. Children are the future as well as our evangelism, so I just wanted to bring up those points.
Thank you. Michael, anything from online? Okay. Right up here again. Oh, I just wanted for the people online that might be watching, so just so they can hear everything that's being said.
Pat Fabian again. Alan and I weren't able to attend the first meeting that you had over in the gym, but I did watch it online twice. There was a lot of unanswered questions. You brought up, I believe, that the committee had been in discussions with the Synod about other mergers. You have not shared, to the best of my knowledge, you have not shared that information with the whole group here. Also, the other question I have is, assuming that this merger would go through, would all the calls for the pastors have to be reissued and for the faculties? And what if the pastors declined? I mean, we'd end up with 6 pastors. I don't know the other pastors. Well, I know some of the ones over at Woodlawn, but I don't know the ones at Jordan or Divine Peace. We love our pastors. I don't want to see them taking a call to another church because of problems that would arise. So I'd like to see more information coming from your discussions with the Synod, with the other churches. And we know there's discussions going on with the other churches, but we haven't been privy to what these discussions are and how they're feeling about all these issues.
Now, first of all, just clarification, as far as other churches, you mean the other 3 churches within our?
Involved in the merger.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I guess as far as discussions with Synod, Pastor Hein is the one that's been helping us with the M4M program. So as far as discussions with Synod, yes, that's been on that level. Relative to Synod's involvement in this, the Catholic Church is very different because they're top down. Catholic Church says this is what you're going to do, that's what's going to happen when it comes to the Archbishop and all that stuff. When it comes to Wisconsin Synod and how we do it, it's very much congregation-centric as being the ones that are the decision makers.
Right.
So although Synod has been involved in guiding us through this process, Synod is not giving us any guidance or direction as to this is what you should do or this is what you should do. They're giving us guidance as to putting things together, but they're not telling us what to do, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. As far as merger discussions with other congregations, we don't have a lot of data there because the M4M program is fairly new. So as far as results from other congregations in M4M and what they've done, we don't have a whole lot there. The Kenosha merger, I believe, they ran that not through the M4M program. I believe they ran it together as their own. I don't know, pastors, if you have any other.
No.
I'll just try to distill some of what a lot of you, a lot of asking, can we get more information? And Pat, you brought up specifically the ministry. On this one thing, in this one area, as we talk about change, we can give you a little bit of specifics. If you've looked at the vision document that was passed out at the last open forum, and you'll notice in the document that one of the things, should we combine, that we're thinking of is changing the general structure of what the new church would be. And we're looking at a church with 3 pastors. You're looking at a church that you'd have 3 pastors, and yes, calls would have to be reissued and redeliberated. And I'm not going to say, well, would you take or not take that call, because as a wise man seated over there told me, don't start deliberating a call you don't have. But just so you guys know that that's one area of change that you can, that's what that vision is looking like. If we voted to merge and approve that vision, that's what would end up happening. So.
Yes, the merger would form a new congregation, and that new congregation would need to issue calls. So as far as that goes, yes, calls would be issued once that congregation is formed and move ahead from there. Now that's where Pastor Hein in the M4M process will help guide us through as far as assessing who are the ones that should receive the calls. Is it from the pastors we have now? Is it from pastors we don't have now? Teachers, same thing. There's an assessment process there that they will help us and guide us through there. So yes, but as Pastor Sarling said, yeah, there's potential for some change there. Yes, there's no doubt. No, you're more than welcome to. Absolutely. Like I'm going to tell a pastor not to talk in front of his congregation.
I just want to add one thought that it's been on my heart for a while. Looking at this thing does fill me with excitement. I just want to also make sure, because I had to do it to myself, that when you're looking at this, whether it's on the straw poll or the vote on March 28th, you're not voting for guys. Like, this will be a great merger if this person, and this person gets called there. We're voting on a ministry plan. A ministry plan that 20 years down the road, you still are like, yeah, this is great. Not voting on guys like myself or Pastor Webner or Pastor Lehrman or anybody else in the mix. So I don't know if you've struggled with that or not. I had to remind myself, this is your ministry. And that's what you're looking at. And that's the exciting opportunity God has given you. And this ministry here, whether it's in the group, in a large church that is merged, or if it's Good Shepherds, 30 years from now, God is still going to be doing amazing things in West Allis without me. like he's been doing the 4,000 years before me. He's going to keep doing it. So just remember that comfort too.
I think, Gary, did you have a comment?
Hi, it's Mark Bergman again. Just some information on the churches down in Kenosha. Our son Scott, who went to grade school here in Wisco, has been a pastor down there for, 15 years or so. They voted to merge during COVID, as you mentioned, our 4 churches in Kenosha. And they're keeping all 6 of their pastors. So we certainly could choose to do that also. That would be the First Wells Church with 6 pastors. I think there's plenty of them with 4 or 5. So our son Scott is, I think he's the pastor of their Oasis, their outreach to teens, and the urban ministry, and he does Jesus Cares and all sorts of things. So when you have that many pastors, and I don't know why we'd only keep 3. You would think we'd keep at least 4. But if not all 6, you can do an awful lot when you have extra called ministers that you can have a lot of specialty ministry, and that's something we haven't been able to do in any of our 4 congregations. So anyway, just some points about what they're doing down in Kenosha. They're planning on building a new facility. They've already sold one of their 4 churches, even though they just voted months ago. One is already sold.
And I would say that the number 3 is not like it's carved in stone, come down from the mountain, okay? That's a thought right now. Obviously, as the church organizes and sees where the calls would need to be, yes, the church would issue the appropriate number of calls. So that's not a set number.
Mark, did they keep the original pastors? So it was not new people coming in and other people going out? Okay.
Gary, did you have your hand up? Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just have a couple of statements. I just want to say thank you for people coming out today. It's very important to the coordinating board to hear what people are saying. It's very important for us to hear what they're thinking on the process. It's very important that way. Like Kevin, I've been here, upper 20 years, 28 years, 29 years, so we came by about the same time. The thing that is important from what I'm looking at is over the course that I've been on virtually on all the boards as well, is that a number of years ago we looked at expanding the church, realized we weren't able to do that because we wanted to make it better for the members here to participate in more stuff. Actually, Bible classrooms actually have some place to go. We've discussed the fact that the school, is it really good having a second location busing the kids down? So what I'm getting at is the buildings are, to me, the number one is the mission of what we're trying to do as a congregation coming together. But the other part is being realistic here as our church, as we've discussed this year after year, that, to poise ourselves for growth, and I think someone mentioned this before, that the space really isn't here. Because we talked about expanding the school, we talked about the child care, I think it's exciting to say we might be able to do this together and actually create a campus that we, as a church, have been discussing for a lot of years since I've been here. I was sharing with Kevin that too, I still remember my first churches. I have a affinity to it. Walking in here, as far as the kids got married, or one kid got married here, baptisms, things like that. I have a lot of connections, but part of me is looking at someone and saying, I know there's things that got to be worked through. It's like this this egg and chicken thing, trying to figure out which way you do it. Do you have all the things solidified before you come together, or do you make decisions when you come together? Because that's kind of how we're gonna have to do this as we go along, is work together to find out what is best for the ministry here, for our church and for West Allis and for the area. So again, this is tough and it's hard, and I realize that, and it is having a lot of faith in the next set of steps, and that's very important how we proceed, trying to work together. We're not doing anything different than we talked about over the last, like you say, over the last 20-some years about growth and change. And I mean, we saw the model probably someplace to show that we flipped the church, so people like the way layout is in here. We've talked about changing that, but I look at the Bible class, I think we just don't have the space here. So if we're going to think to ourselves that, and I want to grow, please don't, we used to have 1,000 members. Now we have 300 on average attending services back from 2018. And yet the school, I'm looking at them too. If they want to expand, really have a little bit better for the kids for the future, or even have a change in the gym or putting a new floor in, to me this is a way of doing it, coming together and then putting our resources together to make a campus. I no idea where it's going to be. I know it's hard for all of us trying to think, is it going to be one side, another side? But I guess I'm putting my trust in our Savior, helping guide us when we do these kind of things. But this is tough. I'd be lying otherwise if I didn't say that. But I just have looked over the last number of years what we've been trying to accomplish here as a church, and I'm feeling, coming together to actually make what we're hoping for. This is one way of accomplishing it.
Michael, anything from online? One? Okay. Go over by Michael. Then. Yeah. So I've known Holly for a few years. I can get away with that.
Okay, so the question is, would there be a way to get information from congregations who emerged 2 or more years ago to see how it went and what challenges they had?
Well, I know we have had conversation with the churches in Mequon and the process they went through. I know we'll have conversation with Kenosha, I'm sure, and as they're going through their process. As to other Wells mergers, I guess I would lean on Pastor Hein there to give us some more information about that and what the process is. Again, I come back to as well that the M4M process and what we're going through and the process we're going through now is fairly new, so I just hesitate also to, apples to apples comparison to some of these other mergers that may have gone through and what their outcome was as well, so.
Because I have not been here for 20, 40, 87 years, other than going to kindergarten here, it's interesting, as I'm hearing this, I have a different perspective on working together. When we had the vision a few weeks ago, the thought that kept resonating in my head is, why can't we do some of these things now? And I realized that as a big congregation, we're all under one roof, that would be different. But I thought, my prime example was the Living Nativity. I thought that was super cool. Did it, and I thought that was pretty cool. And so from my perspective as a new person, I actually think we do work together with other congregations. And I know there was that incident that didn't come to fruition, but even with COVID, we managed to put this Living Nativity together in the cold with all the other congregations, and I just thought that was really cool. And it doesn't mean we're gonna do everything together or have everything, but just supporting that. And I think Pastor said that we're doing Easter for Kids together, which I think is cool. We are a stone's throw from all these congregations, and I think we don't have to unite on every single thing, but if we work together for the Living Nativity and the Easter for Kids and whatever else we can do, we choose the things that we can work together on, but still be part of who we are here too. So my perspective is we actually are working together if we remain to stay separate. It looks differently than if we merge, but I thought that was a pretty cool thing, and I think we are working well. So that's just my take on it. So thanks.
Hello,
Has it been shared what the parish area would be if, let's say, all 4 churches merged? So the question of, like, what area would we be responsible for in terms of ministry and outreach? Has that information been shared?
I guess I would classify it as the greater West Dallas area. I mean, if you're looking then at other Wells churches, you've got Nain, which is on the east side of West Dallas. You would have, to the west, you would have Christ the Lord and Star are probably the next 2 churches to the west. To the north and a little bit east, you would have St. John's Tosa. South would be probably St. Jacoby and St. John's Milwaukee, and then Muskego would be the other one. So, I mean, there's a fairly wide area there, but we'd be talking greater West Dallas area, and focusing to the west.
Thank you. Has it ever been shared like on a map? So people look at it and say, okay, here are the 4 ripples. These are the 4 churches. You know, you make the ripple. This is kind of what their area they're working on. Has that ever been shown to anyone like that or no?
We, I know when the M4M was going through the areas that a map had been developed there, it hasn't been in any of the material.
Okay.
But it was a point of discussion. Although it's interesting, if you take a look at a heat map of where all the members are for each of the congregations, you can go all over the place. I mean, I'm in southwest side of New Berlin. I'm by no means the furthest away member of Good Shepherds. And likewise, Woodlawn and Divine Peace. I mean, there's members scattered all over.
Okay. And then another question is, maybe this is for the pastors, maybe this is for someone else who has more information. Based on, we always talk about what the church they're doing the same. Okay, we're doing, we can see Woodlawn over there, I can see it when I get on the freeway, things like that. Are there things they're doing different? Like, is one church focusing on Spanish ministry? Is another one focusing on, more ministry for families whose kids are out of school, like older? Do we know enough about their ministries and what they're doing, and they know enough about what we're doing to be able to, I guess and I'm not trying to lean either way. What I'm saying is, in terms of what's going on now, I know that there are certain efficiencies I think we probably could have in terms of maybe, called workers or committees and boards and things like that. But are there things that churches are doing now that potentially would not be happening later on, and where we would knowingly lose these things? And if that is the case, I would like to, I think it would be good to be informed on that, because again, when Pastor Zarling's talking, again, not holding to the fire, or you talk about going from 6 to 3, that's a big jump. And we're not supposed to vote based on keeping a person, but I think that type of information is really important, because I think everybody here agrees, no matter what happens, you want to make sure that when you're making the information or the vote, that you've made the best decision possible with what you have. And I think that type of thought process will, there's a lot of people I could probably look at just from the comments that are just torn on this. And for me, if there's so many people torn, I want to have, I want to have a lot of people like, absolutely, we're going, because those people are going to be the ones jumping in, wanting to make it work. But if everyone's torn at this moment, that's a concern for me. And because we got to move together, or we got to not move together. And it's one or the other. And it's very important that I think people get to a better place in terms of confidence. So it's not, you don't want to do that. We got to be able to do that. And if some of the information's not there, I think that could really help to get that to some members to be able to make a decision with less, with less weighing on their conscience and saying, no, I think this is absolutely the right decision. So, and using the furnace idea, it was an easy decision for me. We had to buy a new furnace. It stinks, but we had to, because it's cold outside, and the other one has a lot of things wrong with it, and it was over. And even though it's a lot of money, it wasn't as stressful because I know it was the right decision. With here, I want to know that it's the right decision. And I think a lot of people want to know it's the right decision so they can make an educated decision all the way through. Thank you.
I know there's Aiden in the back there. We got a couple hands up. And then, yeah, I saw.
I want to build on Kim and Pat. You guys have done a fantastic job starting this conversation rolling, so thank you. To think that the conversations we're having here are not also happening at Woodlawn and at Jordan and at Divine Peace is ridiculous. Any gentleman who's been married longer than 37 seconds knows that in a conversation with your wife, if she stops talking, that conversation is still continuing. Now, right, it's still happening, whether or not you're hearing it, and whether or not you know what's coming. And to think we do know what's happening over there would also be a gigantic assumption in the wrong direction. We have no idea what their thoughts are right now because that hasn't been communicated to us. So that's one of my questions. Is that communication ever coming forward with what they're feeling about this merger process?
I would say that's the reason for the straw poll.
Okay.
I mean, the straw poll is going to go through, okay, where are you at right now as a member? And what are your comments and questions and concerns? So really, that answer is going to come once the straw poll's done, the results are tabulated, and we sit down as a committee to talk about it and disseminate that information.
Because up until that point, just to build on the whole family relationship marriage thing, it's not only like we're saying we need to date longer, it's like until we get that information, we're basically going to say, go up to the altar and say, I do, before we even get to meet our bride. So without that information, we're going into a huge relationship completely blind. So we need as much as possible. Like, did I know everything was going to happen with me and Charlotte through our life going into that? No, but I had a fairly good idea about what I was getting into. Maybe not.
Did you?
Did I, is the question, yes. Did I? No, but I could see the potential because that conversation existed. And I can see the conversations mingling in other couples as well. So yes, that's fantastic. But I think without that, communication is huge. If we don't know what Woodlawn brings to the table and what their thoughts are, if we don't know what Jordan, same thing, Divine Peace, if we're not all on the same page, I'm still very much torn because this has the potential to be either something completely amazing or it has the potential to completely devastate this community. And I'm just going to say it like it is. This could be incredible if we all come together and everything clicks and God has got his hands both ways. But if we all come together and we're all just like, yeah, someone else is going to do it, we're going to fall flat on our faces. Is there something in the middle? Maybe. But those are like the two extremes that I'm seeing right now, and that's kind of where I'm just, oh. So, thank you.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think it was our friend Chris up there was talking about outreach maps and things. If you want to see Good Shepherd's evangelism outreach maps from 1960 through 2015, come see me. I got the 2015 pulled up right here, showing all the nearby congregations. And it pretty much would be the whole West Dallas area. I mean, in 2015, we had defined all the way from 55th Street out to Moreland, from the freeway down south to the railroad tracks was our outreach area, the whole thing. And then we had the closer outreach area and another. So, because we were getting most of our outreach prospects, the people that were on our mailing lists and things we had some contact with from different events, just as many per block at 56th and Greenfield as at 120th and Greenfield. So our outreach area has been very vast. In any event, one thing that should really be mentioned here, and it wasn't because we did talk about facilities here, we should know that we've looked extensively at the Good Shepherd's facilities over the last 20 years, and pretty much the church building and the school building are grandfathered in as they are, and they're really not expandable in any real way whatsoever. They're not up to code. If you wanted to do anything here to this church building, other than add a few hundred square feet, you got to sprinkler the whole thing and bring in a new water main. So basically, if you want to really do something to massively change the church, you pretty much have to tear it down and start over. It'd be cheaper. And the same thing at the school. The school is grandfathered in. It doesn't have fire codes for all the doors on the stairwells. It doesn't have fire codes on the walls and the doors and the glass between the classrooms and the hallway for fire. At one point, I had made plans and put them forth, and we had people look at it for just making it a brand new classroom in the space that we had over at school by chopping up some hallways, moving the entryway, using the shower facility that's just a storage right now and turning that into usable space. And that would have cost a fortune, even though you weren't changing any walls, just putting in some doors and things. Should have been real cheap. No, because it's not, then you have to bring the whole facility up to fire code. So in any event, our facilities right now are not very expandable at all here without tearing down and starting over. So that should be in the mix too as you discuss things.
Do we have, Al, did you have another comment? Okay, come up here. Aiden, right here.
This comment is saying, you know, finally, is it the voters, just the voters of the congregation, or is it going to be all the members of the congregation that make these decisions?
Well, straw poll will be members. The merger vote will be voters of the congregation.
Because, you know, voters and members are just, how many voters do we really have? Not many, I don't think we got 100, do we, even less than that?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but, and that's the reason for the straw poll. We want to make sure we're getting feedback from members as a whole, not just the voters.
Right, because there's a lot of female members that don't have husbands and they are not members.
Yeah, and that's why we're trying to get as much information as we can from membership as a whole. Well, and as far as registered voters not attending meetings, yeah, I think that's something that's systemic throughout all congregations, unfortunately. It's the same as volunteers versus number of members. So. And that's yeah, something we need to discuss.
That was part of my first question at the first open forum, and I guess I'm just wondering at the coordinating board level, has that been discussed further if there's been specific parameters set for this vote as to, I know it's been talked about as a supermajority. Does that mean 2/3? Does that mean 3/4? Or are we looking at a specific, like, hey, we've got 315 voters on registry. We need at least 100, or is there some fixed percentage or number there that we're saying, yes, we need this to happen, otherwise it's a no vote? Or is it just literally, if the same 47 people who show up at the voters meeting and 22 of them are voters, we're going to move a congregation to 500 on a vote of 20?
Well, 2/3 is what we're looking at as far as the count. Now, as far as participation in the vote, again, that's a point that's open for discussion as to how we're going to do that.
Has that been
But I
discussed?
think we're going to try to reach, again, as many as we can.
Has that been discussed at the coordinating board, like specifically?
As to reaching the number, well, maybe Gary can.
Like setting a number or reaching a number, or how we're going to make sure that that number is as viable as it needs to be? I understand that, yeah. We've offered pizza, and even mac and cheese pizza, and that got Paul, so. Yeah, well.
I will speak personally there as far as distance voting option. I would like to see that. It has yet to be developed as to how that vote will actually take place, yes. Anything further from online? Okay. Well, it appears we have reached the limit of questions and comments, so. Oh, Pastor Wempner?
So I just wanted to conclude the meeting with just a couple observations, both about the last open forum and this one, first of all. I just really appreciate the spirit in which this congregation has discussed this. It's been, from a pastoral perspective, it's just been enjoyable to watch you talk to each other, disagree with each other. That's fine. We disagree, and that's wonderful. So I've genuinely enjoyed this, watching the way this is unfolding. The other thought I had, and Pastor Zolling kind of expressed this at the beginning, but just as a word of encouragement to all of you, I've always viewed this as kind of a choice between good and good. Nobody's advocating for let's just not have a church here. Let's not tell people about Jesus anymore. That's not the position anybody's taking. And different people see it differently, how it would be best to do that. And that's actually okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And so that's why I say I appreciate the way in which we have discussed this in a very, very Christian way. So thank you very much. Last two quick comments. I just had to say this. As my wife pointed out, I've been here for 1 year. So I still like Chris Groth. And then just go on totally off topic because you're seeing me sit here in this stupid chair. I have bursitis in my hip, which, if you don't know what that is, it's like swelling in your hip. And it's not like it's life-threatening or anything, but it just hurts a lot. So I can't even stand up for the last couple days. And I'm glad I waited because I'm really glad I came to this meeting. We're going to go see another doctor this afternoon, and who knows what he'll do. They gave me a shot the other day that was of zero effect. So we'll see. Maybe we'll find someone else. But just because I know you're wondering, why is that guy who's usually, I've never looked him in the eye, you're thinking. Why is he down at our level? I don't like it either. It'll be okay. So
1 year and we've already put him in a wheelchair. 87 years, Pat's still on his feet. So, okay. To wrap it up, thank you again for coming. Appreciate all the comments and questions. This has been live streamed, it's been recorded, so I know it's going to be reviewed and all the comments will definitely be taken into account. So thank you very much.